3FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Yeah, no happy applause to start off the show today. It's another sour note. And in this one, I just want you to know this is on purpose. I am not saying this guy's name. And I'm not going to tell what other people who are behind microphones should and should not do. But we've had this conversation many times about these mass killers that you can't explain other than they're just psychopaths, right? And really, let's talk about that. That's why this disturbs you so much. That's why this story grabs your attention. But we've had like 10 homicides here in Dallas in July. None of them you really feel like keeping up with. But I can explain that, and you probably know this intuitively if you don't say it out loud. But this mass murdering psycho in Idaho, he's going away for life 4 times over. But you're not bothered by other crimes. You're bothered by this one because it's so random. You're not bothered by the drive-by shooting over some gang beef, over turf, because you're not in the thug life. You don't have to worry about that. Your kids aren't in it. No one's going to come up to your daughter's driveway and spray bullets into her birthday party. Why? That doesn't happen where you live. That couldn't happen. You hadn't gone around making drug dealers mad. You're not bothered by the gas station bandits. The earlier this week, there were 2 guys that knocked over 3 gas stations in a row, but it was way down in the not so pleasant Grove area. That's really far from you. That probably happens all the time down there. We don't have to worry about it. I can go to the gas station. Plus, I'm not out going to those gas stations with bulletproof glass at 2 a.m. anyway. You're not bothered when you turn on the news and you see the husband-wife murder-suicide because you didn't marry a psycho, I assume. And even if you did, you're getting along pretty good. It's not going to kill you. You're not bothered when you turn on the news and you see the idiots that killed themselves street racing at 3 a.m. on 121. Why? Number one, you're not in the street racing gang. You don't think Fast and Furious is a documentary to live your life by. And you're not out at 3 a.m. again. You can avoid so many of these other scary stories, but there's nothing you can do to avoid this. You can't explain this one away. You can't tell yourself, oh, well, that only happens to other people. That can't happen to me. This is so random and so unforeseen and doesn't fit any pattern. And the reason you're scared of that is you can't prepare for it. That's why this story bothers you. That's why cases like this bother you. And here we are. What did this happen 3 years ago? He was already found guilty. Now he's been sentenced. No motive. You still don't know the motive. I don't know the motive either. And you can tell the judge is kind of shook. You know, judges are human beings. And when they see the blank stare where it looks like the animatronic shark from Jaws, like that's what his eyes look like in court today. Just nothing back there. Just straight up absence of humanity. You can tell the judge was a little shook.
I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society.
The victim's sister, she's throwing some words at him, but I got bad news. This doesn't bother him. Your insults don't bother. He's a psychopath. If anything, he'd probably find some sort of joy in the fact that he's continuing to inflict pain on his fellow human beings. That's what he gets off on. But here's the victim's sister saying some sad words.
The scariest part about you is how painfully average you turned out to be. The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. I see through you. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass.
Dump. Sorry. I thought that was clean. All right. My fault. You got it, Garrett? Good. Sorry about that. Heartbreaking stuff. What you have here It's something that you can't rationalize in your head. That's why it bothers you. What do you do to avoid a psycho that just follows you home from some public event? How do you stop that? How do you be safe? You go to sleep with a gun under your pillow. Someone shows up in your bedroom in the middle of the night and just starts shooting. You can't defend against that. Would you have to live in a fortress? How do you do that when there's 6 roommates in the same building? Maybe if you can live in a fortress, your kids have to go out. They have to live in this world. You worried about them? Of course you are. So maybe some solace we can take away from this horrible story about the Idaho mass murderer who just got 4 life sentences is, how do we lessen this? We live in a fallen world. There's going to be psychopaths. Some people are born this way. Some people are abused as kids and become psychopaths. We can't prevent them. How can we at least minimize this? What can we do to sort of reduce the incentive for this to happen in the future? Because first you have to establish, why does he like doing this? I don't know. Does he like the publicity? Because if so, then no one needs to be saying his name. I mean, I understand news people are kind of exempt from that, but commentators and opinion people like me should never say this guy's name. I haven't said it today. I'm not going to say it. The other thing we can do is, instead of taking away a carrot, we can use a bigger stick. I think we have a moral obligation to kill people like this. I think if we know we have a psychopath, if we know we have a killer, and we know he's there's just no motive. He just wanted to light a match and watch the world burn and inflict as much pain on his fellow human as possible. He's admitted to it. There's no doubt to his guilt. I think we have to start killing these guys. What about publicly? We'll talk about that next. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Bummer of a day. The Idaho killer, the mass murder, killed 4 roommates 3 years ago now. Just got 4 life sentences. Sentence came down today, and it captivates the news. And I'm trying to explain to you why. Because you can't explain this one away. You can't escape this. Your kids can't escape. You can't shield your kids from this. They weren't rolled up in the gang war. They weren't caught in a toxic relationship with a unhinged person. They weren't drug addicts. They weren't on the wrong side of town. They weren't thieves. They just seemed like good and ordinary people doing the right thing, and still they were victimized by this monster. And so my theory on why is this mass killing story so captivating, not just you, but the media. MSNBC's talking about it. Fox News is talking about it. Everyone is in between talking about it. Our news partner, WFAA, is going to mention it on tonight's news, even though this happened in Idaho. Now, I'll tell you what makes it so scary. You can't prepare for this. You can't explain this away. Here's what you can do. There's other psychos out there who's seeing all the attention this guy's getting. Like, hey, I would like to hurt a lot of people, and I would like to have everyone know my name. That'd be great. I hate everybody anyway. Maybe I'll try that. So, number 1, let's stop saying his name. Number 2, let's make a mockery of this guy. Public execution. I'll say it again. Like, he's just saying sensational. So that's just his job. He's supposed to say crazy things on the radio. So we listen. I am serious. Can we discuss this? Because we used to do public executions in this country. Was the murder rate higher or lower when we had public executions? In fact, we used to do public executions for all of human history up until about the time you were born. Was the crime rate higher or lower? Did you get a better result? Do you not want to do it just because it's ugly? Because it's gross? Because it feels icky? Was that a good enough reason to not do it? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Kevin, North Richland Hills. You're on WBAP.
Yes, sir. You took the words right out of my mouth. And this just doesn't deal with the guy that killed all the people. This deals with MS-13 and all the other three gangs. Just take them out and shoot them in the head. That's what they need to do. And that would be a big deterring factor. But anyway.
So there's 2 opinions there. You want it to be public, and you want it to be with a gunshot to the head?
I don't know if it has to be public. I'm not going to tell you what. Well, yeah, I will. My 90-year-old dad, he said he'd have public hangings and have him out there hanging so everybody can see. And I said, Dad, they can't do that.
Well, I don't think that's an incidental variable we're looking at. I think one of the things that will make it effective is specifically if it is public. If it's not public, then it's out of sight, out of mind. No one has to deal with it. But if everyone has to look at it, just like we have to look at every George Floyd type crime up and down for years on end, we got to examine what's going on here. We should examine. We should all be a little more transparent in what happens to criminals or people who do bad things to innocent people.
There you go, young man. So anyway.
All right. Well, Kevin's on board. Kevin in North Richland Hills. He's okay with public executions. I am too. Where do you stand? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, of course, in almost 23 years I've been doing talk radio, I'm going to get an email or I'm going to get a Facebook message from some guy saying, here's what we got to do. We got to do what they did on Braveheart, where you rip his guts out and then you quarter him with 4 horses. They all walk in opposite directions. We don't have to get medieval on people. All right. I'm not advocating torture or anything, not even cruel and unusual. But for all of human history, up until about the time you were born, not only did it happen, it was normal. And unless you live way out in the country, city folks, they got to see this. Not all the time, not every day. It was rare, but it happened. They all have stories. You read history. You've read history books. They all have stories about, there's a guy hanging from a tree, or he was found guilty in front of a jury of his peers, and when judge hit the gavel, they took him out to the town square, and boom, everyone happened. And then they had a festival after that. A bunch of people were, playing fiddle or something. It used to be, I don't want to say the most normal thing in the world, but a reliable consistent factor of fighting crime in society, in our society, in your society, right here where you're sitting. You know, I've looked into a lot of these stories. Like in Waco, there was some activists that came up and they're like, "This is the 100th anniversary of the lynching of Jesse Washington." I was like, "Oh no, did the Ku Klux Klan or some racist people lynch a black kid out of racism?" No, they there was a black kid who raped and murdered his boss's wife, and he took the cops back to the crime scene, and he explained that you know, this is where I raped her, and they didn't know that he had raped her. They just found her dead body, and so he had confessed to both crimes. He went to court. They slammed the gavel, so he was even found guilty in a court of law. And then right after that, the mob takes him out of court, and they go hang him. Now that seems to be extrajudicial. I don't think he got his full complement of appeals, and that's wrong. And you know, whatever due process we all deserve, it should happen. But it wasn't the same. It wasn't like it's portrayed. It used to be the people of your town were so disgusted by these people that they couldn't be stopped in punishing someone. And they waited until he was found guilty. I'm not saying they never made mistakes, but it's not like it's portrayed. 800-288-9227. This is Marsha and Kaufman. You're on WBAP.
Hello there. I think there's two schools of thought regarding public executions. Right now, I don't know that it would have such a deterrent effect on the younger generation because they've become so desensitized to violence and horror that I don't know that it would really bother them. They probably look at it and say, oh, well, cool.
Are you kidding? These people are scared by pronouns.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I have grandsons, and I know how they go with their games and everything, and it's all this violence. And you watch television, you go to movies, and you're seeing violence everywhere. I don't know that they would be that affected by it.
Well, look, I've got 4 young kids, and they all play video games to some degree. And yeah, they do see a lot of violent stuff, but this is not what they're seeing in the real world. And they're pretty good at putting distance between what's on video games and movies and the real world. They live in a world where they're scared to take peanut butter to school. You know, they're scared by crossing the street. A lot of them are scared to drive. Have you heard this new trend of 16-year-olds who aren't getting their driver's license immediately? They just have no interest. That's just something adults do. You know that.
I hadn't heard that, but thank you. I'm just pulling up to my druggist. I just want to put my tooth scissor.
Good deal, Marcia. Thanks for calling in. Go get your drugs. This is Marcellus in Arlington. You're on WBAP.
Hey, James. Man, I got a little bit of a different opinion. I think as I became more and more pro-life, and I maybe started analyzing my views on the death penalty and things like that, I have to believe that people can be redeemed, and I don't think we have a right to take any life. I think it's a different situation if you are doing that to protect someone in the moment, but after the fact, lock them up, consequences certainly, but I think that's I think more for
well, we have data on that. It's been tried. Like they tried in California. They stopped doing the death penalty. Did it help? Did it make society better? Did it reduce human suffering?
No, but also I don't think the death penalty is going to reduce it either because it's not really attacking the problem at the root.
I hear you. No, hey, that's a fair argument. Marcellus, I'm just out of time. We got to take a news break here. 800-288-9227. This Idaho mass murder makes me just want to go on a flame-throwing spree about this is why we need death penalty. This is why we need public executions. And this is why we need them quickly. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. The mass murderer in Idaho, who I'm intentionally not saying his name, just got 4 life sentences and a few other punishments tacked on to that. Why does this mass killing story so disturb you? Well, because you can't stop it. You can't get away from it. You can't move to the good side of town. You know, most murders you see are either a husband and wife that don't get along or some drug turf beef on the other side of town from you, far, far from where you live. Some of these other disturbances, that doesn't match your life, but you cannot avoid just a straight up cold psycho. And you worry about you worry about your kids as they go off in the world. And I think one thing that you can do to deter the likelihood that this will happen again or happen to you is we got to make a better example out of these guys. And one thing is using their psychosis against them. They're so wrapped up in getting some sort of fame. While, look, the difference between sociopath and psychopath. Sociopath is indifferent to human suffering. Psychopath enjoys human suffering. They enjoy inflicting pain, right? It's not an incidental part of the condition. And so let's turn that on its head. Instead of you getting your name said by all the news outlets for a little bit of time and you getting some sort of notoriety, instead of just being forgotten like the rest of us other normal, boring losers, let's flip the script and have a public execution. So they will be remembered. They'll be remembered for getting killed. They'll be remembered in a humiliating fashion. No one will think, oh, I'm scared of you because he's a monster. They like that. Nope. Just remember, oh, God, he did that thing where right after you die, you poop yourself. That's ridiculous. I don't enjoy that. I don't get any jollies out of that. I'm just thinking all of human history used to do it until about the time you were born. Why did we stop doing it? Has it resulted in a better society? Let's try it. Can we at least try it in this state and we'll compare versus California or whatever? So that's what we're talking about. Don't bother calling in. Lines are full. Jennifer Rockwall, you're on WBAP.
Hi, regarding the execution, in the Bible, God says, send them to me, I'll take care of them. Plus, if the military can execute people for treason, then that's good enough for me.
Well, a backstop I like to use is, what did the founding fathers say? Because,
Right.
How did the founding fathers feel about drug prohibition? They didn't prohibit drugs. How do they feel about public execution? George Washington, if he found a spy, would string him up on the spot and hang him. And I know that's in a time of war or whatever, but they weren't squeamish about executions or public executions. And that's a relatively new phenomenon. Your great-grandparents most definitely, or probably, I should say, saw one. For some of you, your grandparents saw one. I don't think my grandparents ever saw a hanging. My parents definitely didn't. I certainly haven't. But it is only up until the last few decades that we stopped with this whole public execution thing. The last person that was killed by guillotine in France, I think that was in like the 70s, wasn't it? All right, I got a Googling to do. Thank you very much, Jennifer Rockwall.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for calling in. This is JW in McKinney. You're on WBAP. What's up, JW?
Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that last comment you made. When do you think the last public execution was in the United States?
No, I was saying the guillotine execution in France.
Okay. When do you think the last execution was publicly in the United States was?
Man, I don't know. I would guess. I don't know. What counts as publicly? Where like
public state sanctioned execution.
Yeah. Oh, state sanctioned, because there's a lot where people got dragged out of the courthaus and hung in the 10s and the 20s and the.
No, not those ones. I'm talking about a state sanctioned public execution, like the ones you want to bring back.
I really don't know.
About 88 years. So that was the last one that was done in the United States. I believe it was in Missouri. So almost 90 years ago is the last one. I like public, or not, I like executions. Okay, if you did the crime and if you got convicted by a jury and you got sentenced to that, all for it. I think you're missing a good point here, and I don't think you're looking at it the right way.
Help me.
These monsters that are psychopaths that enjoy inflicting pain on people and killing people and all this kind of stuff, don't you think that they'd enjoy that much more if they were killed in public and sensationalize it more and more so they can inflict more, crap on people's eyes that have to watch it or maybe unintentionally watch it? They would love that. They would. How about all these people that want to die by cop? In public.
Yeah, but they like
You
the
know,
idea of people being scared of them. Ha ha, they're a big monster. And so that puts them in a position of power over these people. But if the whole world sees them with their hands tied behind their back, they're on their knees and they're getting bent over some stump, and here comes the axe that's about to behead them. That's not something that they hold in like glorious esteem. I don't think they would enjoy that. And
I think they would.
I
And-
googled
and-
it,
and-
JW, the last
Yeah.
guillotine execution in France, 1977.
Okay, I didn't know about France. I just knew about the United States. But here's the thing: these people that are psychopaths like that, they're not afraid to die in public. In fact, I think they would enjoy it more. And I think that you would have people that would see this that shouldn't or didn't want to. Internet, whatever, kids, children don't need to be seeing that stuff. And I think if you make it public,
It would inspire more.
Well, it would.
I can see that.
No, I just don't want kids to see that kind of thing. People that don't choose to see it might get it popped up on their phone somewhere in their social media or somewhere. I don't want my child seeing a public execution. I don't want that to happen. I think they should be killed in a hole someplace in front of a few select people that are invited to watch, maybe like friends, family, victims, stuff like that. So I think we should just keep doing it like that.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what we do now. And I don't know, does that seem to be working?
You know what? I believe in the death penalty. I believe in the death penalty if it's conclusive by DNA evidence or indisputable witnesses. So as long as it fits that criteria, and if it's the state that allows the execution, I'm all for it. I'm an eye for an eye guy.
So that's not too much different than what we have now. But you're making some good points. How do we keep kids from seeing it, especially the kids of parents who don't want them to see it? That's a great point. I think that's a good point.
If you make it public, they're going to see it somewhere or the other, my friend.
I don't know. I can keep my kids from seeing a lot of things that are public.
Do your friends have a cell phone?
Yeah,
they can see everything that's public.
Yeah, up until they're like 13 or 14. My 9-year-old doesn't have a cell phone. She doesn't get to see all that. But no, you bring up some great points. You're a great addition to the show. Thank you for calling JW in McKinney. Coming up next, we're going to ask the legal analyst of the James Show, Jeremy Rosenthal from TexasDefenseFirm.com, his thoughts on this subject. And you guys waiting on hold. I'll get to you right after Jeremy. Stick with me. There's a line open now, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. If you're just joining us, top story of the day is the killer, the 4-victim mass murderer in Idaho, just got sentenced to 4 life sentences. Now, my next guest is a regular guest. You've heard him on the James Show many times, Jeremy Rosenthal. Let's not say his name. That's kind of the rule I'm having on the James Show. So if you could just say the killer or that guy or the psycho or whatever, let's not actually say his name. But welcome to the show, Jeremy. Doing okay. I mean, sometimes we have a nice, fun, bright segment to talk about, but we've sort of delved into a dark part of the legal history here, and that's dealing with public executions. My last caller was bringing up a good point. Do you know when the last public execution was? Well, the last one that was state sanctioned and legal and not like a lynch squad or anything, August 14th, 1936. And I don't really have an explanation on why we stopped doing that. Do you have any background on that, Jeremy Rosenthal? So why didn't this guy get the death penalty? Was that part of a plea deal? Well, I can see the incentive for the county because they would have to spend a whole bunch of money for the guy that's just going to end up in jail anyway. So, I mean, I guess if there's any solace for this, saving the taxpayers some money, but there's a lot of us, myself included, sure would like to see this guy dead. That's scary. That, I hear you. All right, well, Jeremy Rosenthal, you can find him at texasdefensefirm.com. Thank you very much for another great legal analysis segment on the James Show. All right, moving over to the phones here. Here's Brad in Little Elm. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Brad?
Well, I think 100% on public executions. And one couple of steps further. One, I just want to get your thoughts on maybe making them pay-per-view. That's the first thing. Second
Well,
thing
hang on.
is-
You say that as a joke, but I don't take it as a joke because
not
that
joking.
addresses
I
JW
am not
earlier, who was
joking at
saying,
all.
how do we make sure children don't see this? And if you put it behind a paywall, that not only raises money, for our criminal justice system and lessens the burdens on the taxpayers, but also creates a barrier for unprying eyes or whatever eyes.
Yeah, second item is I think you need to go back to where in this case, and I've been watching this case closely, it would be nice for the victim of the family of the victim to have some say in this guy's demise. For example, if I were the parent of one of these guys, I would love to see this guy buried up to his head and stand at low tide and watch him suffer.
Well, we don't have to do that, but I think if you get like a legit regular execution style, I like the justice, the feeling of justice. If the victim's families, like if it's going to be a firing squad, they get to pull the trigger. If he's going to be hanged, like the mother of the victim or the wife of the victim can kick the stool out from under him. Or no, I get where you're going with that. Let's just not get as cruel and Byzantine as burying him up to his neck. All right, psychos, tap the brakes. I get we're all a little emotional after this story. 800-288-9227. Brian Adams bringing his tour to American Airlines Center November 13th. Special guest Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. Get tickets and information at livenation.com, or you can try and win a pair of tickets from us. Text Adams. If you want to go see Brian Adams, text Adams to 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, more calls on the specter of public executions in the wake of the Idaho mass murder verdict. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Look, we've taken a sad story, a somber story, kind of a scary story, and turned it into something a little more upbeat, a little more positive, a little more assertive is probably the best adjective. And that's dealing with the Idaho murderer who just got sentenced. He had killed the 4 people 3 years ago. Now he's getting 4 life sentences with a couple other sentences tacked on top of that. So he's going to be locked away for good. We don't have to worry about this guy ever again. Now, that doesn't mean there's not more psychos out there and we're completely in the clear and we can completely let our guard down. But at least for this one guy, his time is done.
I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society.
And in the discussion on how can we disincentivize future Idaho killers like this, and I'm intentionally not saying his last name, that's also part of the disincentive theory. I think public executions got to come back. Not just executions, public executions. And look, previous callers said, let's put them on pay-per-view. Sounds like a joke. I don't think that's a joke. It's better than paying taxes for these guys. Heck, make that execution pay for itself. 800-288-9227. This is Tom in Oklahoma. You're on WBAP.
Hey, James. I agree with whoever it was that was talking about pay-per-view. I was thinking about pay down the debt, but if it'll just pay for the execution, that'll be fine. But pay-per-view, that's a good idea. I have a in view of your previous guest comments, I'm not sure that the Eighth Amendment will allow it. I don't know how that would work out. I didn't know about that. But I have a particular person in mind whom I won't name in respect for your principles on the air. But he was a major promulgator of the COVID pandemic, and he's been pardoned by the auto pen.
Yeah, it could be anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, but it gets complicated from there.
Yeah. So Tom, you're on board with that. What about your concerns that children might see it?
That's my major concern, which is why I brought up the pandemic, because this guy disrupted the lives of students all across the United States, and you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, also the idea that they stopped us from going to church. And did you get due process? Yes. I didn't get a hearing either. Now all these people that are concerned about due process when it comes to an MS-13 gang member who's not even an American, where were they 5 years ago? It's the damnedest thing, Tom.
Well, and my church, we did what was according to the Bible. We were 6 feet apart and wore masks and all that nonsense.
Yeah, I think it says that in Leviticus or something, doesn't it? It's just anyway. Go ahead.
I think it was Romans. I think they said obey the government. And anyway, so God placed these people in power, but this guy, and you know exactly who I'm talking about, was the highest paid federal employee in the government.
All right, Tom in Oklahoma wants Fauci to die. We'll just leave it there. Is that what you were getting at, Tom?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Great call, sir. He's a funny guy. This is Michael in Fort Worth. You're next up on WBAP. Go.
I'm also a big fan of the pay-per-view kind of deal, but I got a little bit of a slant on it. I figure you come up with 5 random methods of execution and allow the people which have subscribed to view that the execution to vote on which method is to be used.
Oh, like American Idol, you can text your vote in. That's
exactly
great. The only argument that, and I've been having this debate on talk radio ever since I've been on it. The only argument that really kind of bothers me against this and makes me reconsider my position is someone called in one time and they're like, isn't this what they did in Idiocracy? And then I had to make the point that just because they did it on Idiocracy doesn't mean it's wrong. When they had the rehabilitation after Not Sure got in trouble and they were going to execute him, it was in a big arena and there was a whole crowd there with a band and it was a whole scene and it was on TV and Fox News was running commercials for it. And he was in a big what was that Volkswagen Bug with the phallus? We'll just leave it at that on it.
Right.
So
right.
the idiocracy angle is the only time when I'll go, maybe I should reconsider my position. But that's the only thing they got on it so far. I think we all agree here, Michael. I'm glad you're on board. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for calling in. Coming up next on the James Show. Really, a lot of you people, they can't wait to do public executions. We got to get to some other real news. David Hamilton with the National Security Economic Center is going to tell you what does Russia think about this whole Russia hoax news. You know, Tulsi Gabbard's been dropping new documents about how this whole thing was just a setup and a hoax, and the Russians weren't responsible for it at all. I wonder what they think. They probably think this is hilarious. Find out next on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, I thought of my next guest, David Hamilton, when I saw the news about it keeps coming out from Tulsi Gabbard and that whole crew. More and more stuff about the Trump-Russia collusion. And that story, not only did it fall apart, David Hamilton, it's starting to look like the only people not involved in the Trump-Russia collusion hoax are Trump and Russia at this point. How funny is that? Dossier, yes. File. Well, this may be a shocking opinion to some listeners of WBAP, but I wouldn't. I really don't think Obama is going to get rolled up into this. A couple reasons. He's at the end of his second term. He's not trying to get reelected. Why would he risk getting in trouble? Why would he even care? I don't even think he's that big of a fan of Hillary. Now, Hillary's fingerprints are all over this. You know, it was her friends that paid for the Fusion GPS that paid for the dossier, and she has the motive. She has the incentive. And I distrust her far more than, Obama, who has nothing to gain while committing these felonies. Well, David, sorry to interrupt, but this explanation comes up all the time. If you believe this guy's Hitler, you don't care if Fusion GPS paid for the dirty info. You're trying to keep Hitler from coming out of power, and whatever means necessary is justified by the ends. But you have to, that presupposes you believe Trump's Hitler. Well, I think we have a question that'll be perfect for our conversation here. This is Brent in Lake Weatherford. You're on WBAP with David Hamilton from the National Security Economic Center at UNT. Go ahead. What do you think, Brent?
Well, James, I think you're naive on this deal. A little disappointed in you because Obama, you know how that guy is. He's egotistical. He wants to run the show, and that's what he did during Biden. And his fingerprints are everywhere. He just tries to stay away from it because he's smart.
Okay, now from my point of view, I think you give him too much credit. I think he's more like an AOC who answered an audition for the Puppet Masters, the machine, the money behind the seat that, you know, who's going to be our puppet for this. And so Barack Obama is no great ambition or big thinker. He was a guy who was plucked out of obscurity from Chicago to play a role. He played the role. I don't think he's the brains behind all this. And I think you give him too much credit.
James, look what he did to get elected in the first place. He slandered people. He did exactly what he did with Trump. When you look at when he ran in Chicago, when he was whatever he was, then he was in the legislature or whatever. He did exactly the same thing. That's his MO.
Okay, Brent, maybe so. Let's see what David Hamilton thinks. Go, David.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
David Hamilton, can you hang with me for one more segment? I still have two very important questions. All right. Coming up next, you're going to hear from David Hamilton. He's with the National Security Economic Center at UNT. The two questions: is somebody going to go to jail for this? And what does Russia think about this? You know, are they just tickled that they're getting all this credit for something they didn't do this whole time? That we'll find out from David Hamilton next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back. It's the James Show, and I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. We're continuing with David Hamilton from the National Security Economic Center at UNT. He runs the National Security and Economic Strategy Initiative, and you need to get a shorter title, sir. Just throwing that out there. All right. In this whole Russia collusion hoax thing, does Russia see this and enjoy it? Because they're getting a whole lot of credit for being able to control who's chosen as the most powerful person on planet Earth, the president of the most powerful country on Earth. What do you think they think of this? I find that in some ways amusing, kind of a sad amusing, but amusing. Right? Because and that's one of the reasons why so many people didn't believe it at all. Really, Russia's hacking into our election, and that was the specific verbiage a lot of people were using. Russia's hacked into our election, and well, I also enjoy the fact that that's what you consider to be hacking, like openly buying face. That's not hacking. Hacking sounds sinister. Sounds like we're being cheated. Well, I was going to say we had the big press conference today. Tulsi Gabbard came out, and this is pretty much the third day in a row that she's released something publicly or started dripping out information slowly. So they want to keep this storyline going. This isn't like we're just dumping all this for transparency's sake. This seems to be some sort of ongoing narrative that's not going away anytime soon. But David, I'm kind of losing interest in talking about it. Is someone going to go to jail? Did you say open our kimono to ourselves? Yeah, I wear a kimono around the house. As soon as I get off work, I go home, put on a kimono, and that's it. Just one well-placed sock. We're talking with David Hamilton from the National Security Economic Center at UNT. David, there's such a scarce historical precedent for things like this. Like you'll see a Scooter Libby go to jail. You'll see a Paul Manafort go to jail, but never do you see any of these bigwigs go to jail. So I think we're all going to be skeptical until we actually see a little more action on this. But All right, you get the class summit coming up September 13th. Who needs to go to that? All right. Thank you very much, David Hamilton. Appreciate you being on the James Show and sharing your expertise with WBAP listeners. Thank you, sir. All right. Coming up next, our teacher Vino from the Crude Truth Podcast is going to answer the question, is your price of gas about to go down soon? 800-288-9227. This is the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. What about the price of gas? Hadn't heard a lot about that. Sometimes if you don't hear something about a certain subject in the news for a long time, it's because it's doing so dang good. RT Trevino has the answers. He's from Pecos Country Energy, also hosts the Crude Truth podcast, a regular on the James Show. So where do you think the price of gas is going? First off, welcome back. But where do you think the price is going from here, RT? Does it still have room to go down? Well, I had a listener just email me yesterday asking about the price of gas. They were expecting it to go down, starting about $3, and it's only down to about 289, maybe 279 at a good pump. So I think a lot of people were expecting a bigger drop. Yeah, I guess that's a big factor too. Inflation is sort of cooled. I think it's still too hot. It's above 2%, and that's going to be a little bit painful. But it does kind of mask the idea that the price of gasoline has been, on a historical basis, lower than average. We're talking with RT Trevino from the Crude Truth podcast and Pecos Country Energy. Now, you say the peak of the summer driving season is over. Was demand above or below estimates? Was it busier than expected or lighter than expected, RT? They were expecting bigger records. All right, RT, what's coming up on the Crude Truth podcast? All right, it'll happen. But yeah, we talked about the Coldplay concert, and our conclusion there, RT, is, just for the wife of the guy, how embarrassing is it for her to find out that way that your husband likes Coldplay? It's just so humiliating. All right, RT, did you get to see Landman yet? Yeah, there was a shoot not too far from here too. I'm all caught up on season 1. I'm looking forward to season 2 because it sure does make you guys in the oil patch look cool. Yeah, that's cool. Do you see yourself in your show? Which character are you, RT? I'm asking RT Trevino. Thank you very much. Check him out on the Crew Truth podcast and Pecos Country Energy. Appreciate it, sir. So Collective Soul and Live are bringing their summer Unity tour to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory August 13th with special guest Our Lady Peace. If you want to try and win some tickets off of us, I would love for you to win some tickets off of us. You got to text the word summer to 800-288-9227. It's the same number I give out if you want to call into the show. Text the word summer for tickets to see Collective Soul Live and Our Lady Peace August 13th. Text summer to 800-288-9227. Coming up next on The James Show, Texas Senate is thinking about banning THC again, and one guy in the Senate is calling it the new meth. You'll hear it next on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Got some ugly news from Austin in the special session. It's going to be another special turd in the punch bowl. It's going to be just like the regular session. They're going to go out there. They're going to waste a whole bunch of time. They're not going to pass the priorities that the Texas voters are asking for. They're going to strangely pursue other little niche policies that nobody's asking for. And you're going to end up paying for it all. Your taxes are probably going to go up. Congratulations, the aristocrats. A great example of that is in the House of Representatives. They adjourned after a 10-minute opening to the session, and they're not going to re-adjourn until tomorrow. So for the first week, after 10 minutes of statements, they decided for their first act of business, they're going to make it a 2-day work week. Now, we're in a special session. We have scarce amount of time here to accomplish a few legislative priorities that are in the governor's proclamation, and the first thing you do is take 3 days off. All right, so they're not taking this serious. We already know that. So we can go ahead, and in the context of that silliness, what's actually going on? Well, on the Senate side of the Texas legislature, they're looking at lowering your property taxes. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They're looking at that other big priority that the voters sent them down there, school choice. They're not working on that. What are they working on? Making THC illegal again. Okay. Let me hear some of this argument. I'm sure it's sound. I'm sure it's scientific. I'm sure it's, based on constitutional principles and airtight.
What are we going to hear from law enforcement today?
You're going to hear a lot of stuff. Law enforcement can tell you that it's the new meth.
New meth?
My sheriff's departments in my area says we don't see the drug of the old. We see these hemp, and the problem with that THC issues is you don't recognize it. It's a different flavor of how people were.
So now THC is the new meth. Great. We're in the old reefer madness era again. And for those of you who
smoke weed every day,
very funny, that may have spent most of your life with THC being illegal just across the board, it's been legal in some form or fashion in America. How long do you think it's been legal? Colorado passed medical marijuana legalization in, it sounds wrong, 2000. We've had a quarter of a century of legal weed somewhere in America. And where's the big fallout? If you are in the state of Texas legislature today, the best evidence you have is Colorado. You have 25 years. You have an entire generation of access to legal weed. You would be reading statistics from Colorado. You would say in 1999, here was the crime rate, or here was the drunk driving wrecks, or here was the something. Do you have any of that? No, you don't. If the numbers were in favor, that's what you would be saying in Austin right now. There are 32 states with some form of legal marijuana, and something like 20, it keeps changing, but I think maybe it's around 20 that have it legal just for recreational purposes. I don't know when the last time you went to New York City was, but you can smell it.
New York City!
Shut up, not today. You can smell it when you're walking down the street. The first time I went to New York City was 2006. And I remember when you would walk down the street, every once in a while, you would walk through someone's cigarette cloud. Now there's no more cigarettes. Every once in a while, when you're walking down the street, you walk through someone's weed cloud. And seriously, the weed clouds outnumber the cigarette clouds in my anecdotal experience walking around in New York. Wouldn't you be using the data from these places, these jurisdictions, to make your case if the numbers were on your side? Oh, see, that's the beautiful part about federalism. That's the beautiful part about a decentralization, the locals getting to make whatever choices they want. And if 50 different states do 50 different things, then we actually have a body of evidence where we can pull from and we can make the case. See, we told you X, Y, and Z was going to happen, but this happened instead. Or we can tell you X, Y, and Z happened and we were proven correct. But whatever they were saying in 1999 and 2000 about, the scary parts of reefer madness, legalizing weed in Colorado, if they were correct, this is what you would be hearing in Austin right now. You're not hearing that. Also, the incredible claim to say this is the new meth, really.
What are we going to hear from law enforcement today?
You're going to hear a lot of stuff. law enforcement can tell you that it's the new meth.
I don't know about that one. You know, meth heads are a different breed. Meth heads, if you go under a bridge down here in downtown, there's a decent chance there might be someone that's ripped up on meth or crack or something to that effect right now. No one is under there because their weed addiction got out of control. Tell me you've never met a meth head without telling me you've ever met a meth head. Just compare it to weed. You ever met a meth head? You know what meth heads will do for more meth? Thank you, Garrett. Let's not get real descriptive on the air, but Garrett's right. The answer to that is anything. Absolutely. And that should scare the heck out of you. Because you look, this isn't to demean, the damage that can be done by people who make poor choices with what they do with their recreational chemical intake. Just trying to be judicious for public consumption here. But when it comes down to it, meth is one of the worst out there. Meth will kill you. Meth is something you can OD on. Can you OD on weed? No, it doesn't happen. Meth is something that these people will do even though it rots all their teeth out. Meth is something that it'll turn you from a nice young lady to a woman who's working the streets. Or a guy, just to be fair to Garrett over there. But now, to compare it to meth, to compare THC to meth, I get the point he's trying to make. This isn't the same old weed that, you were smoking back in Woodstock, something before my time. You're not scaring anybody with this. We have half the country now that has it legalized, and they're not having the downward spiral of society collapsing that was predicted. So they're still trying to do it. Why? I don't know. Are they going to succeed? I hope not, but they might. Super disappointing when you pile that on top of the idea that most of the animating principles that drove the current majority into office are not being addressed at all. Number one, property tax relief. There's no reason you deserve this much property tax hanging over your head every month when you do your mortgage check. That should be at least $100 less, if not $200 less. I'd like to get rid of it altogether, but they're not even starting on that. And the other one, school choice, not even touching that either. Super disappointing. Well, what's the answer, James? We'll find out all the guys that are supporting this, even if they have an R next to their name. Primary them out in the next election. We have the Rhino list. If you want to get a copy of it, just let me know, james@wbap.com. That's all we can do for now. We're kind of hamstrung until the next primary races come around. And if it makes you feel any better, that's next year. I'm not going to forget it. Don't you forget it either. Coming up next, immigration attorney Kate Lincoln Goldfinch. Yes, the one that always argues with me. She's going to be on in the next segment to talk about the businesses complaining that they have a shortage of workers and a deluge of paperwork in the new immigration system. Oh, darn. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. We're inviting my friend Kate Lincoln Goldfinch back on to the James Show. She's an immigration attorney, and I wanted to take a different angle on the immigration topic for 2025. You know, it's been a hot one. Kate, what advice do you have for business owners, probably small business owners, who are relying on immigrants for employees, legal or illegal? What advice do you have for them in this new Trump regime? Well, if you do have a small business that employs immigrants, is there anything you can do to lessen the likelihood of a raid? Is that something you do at Lincoln Goldfinch Law? All right. So how long does an audit take? Okay, so you've been raided. Now what? What would you recommend as an immigration attorney, Kate? Well, there's and been in my experience when I worked in restaurants, the owners when they were hiring people, we suspect that they're illegals, but they had a license, they had a social security number that checked out. If ICE comes back and tells you that you've been duped by one of your employees, what kind of liability or consequences are you facing? Yeah, you know what? I remember the no match letter. Like, hey, some of these social securities numbers don't look right to us. What are you supposed to do when you get those as a business owner? All right. Well, good chat this time. Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, I appreciate you being on the James Show again. You can find her at Lincoln Goldfinch Law. Thank you very much, Kate. All right, coming up next. Isn't it fun when Hunter Biden's criticizing other Democrats? Now, it took me 4.5 hours yesterday to beep out all the F-bombs, but I'll play you a fun cut of audio coming up next. I really hope this guy runs for president. There's no one who's going to tell him no. He's gone rogue for sure. Why do we hear this? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hunter Biden's out doing interviews again. Who told him to do that? Nobody. I bet you everyone told him not to do it. I bet no one wants Hunter Biden out there. Well, I should say no one on Team Blue wants Hunter Biden out there doing interviews. No one in Hunter Biden's family wants him doing interviews. But what does that mean? He's not good for the party. You know, everyone around him's telling him to shut up. You shouldn't go out there. What does that mean? Well, is he still working for Burisma? Is his oil and gas expertise still valued so much that he's making, I don't know, $2 million a year, whatever, $70,000 a month, whatever he was getting? Did his art career, is that not paying the bills anymore? Because he was getting, ridiculous sums. He was getting $50,000, $150,000 a painting to anonymous buyers. He was making money hand over fist, six figures. Is that not working out for him anymore? So what does that mean if he's not on the board of companies in China and Ukraine? What does that mean if his art career died? Does that mean his whole career wasn't based on merit and going forward he has no income? Because worst case scenario, you could see a guy like this spending through all his money and he needs money now. So how does he get money? Well, it's not through any skill of his own. It's all been through his entire life. The grift of his political connections. And so I think he's smart. He's going to go out there and he's just going to make a whole bunch of noise till someone pays him to shut up, is my theory. So he's not going out there and he's not even cussing Trump. He's not even cussing you and me. He's cussing Democrats. And there's a lot of cussing in here. Don't worry. I bleeped it all, but this is from an interview over the weekend.
Him and everybody around him. I don't have to be nice. Number one, I agree with Quentin Tarantino. George Clooney is not a actor. He is a I don't know what he is. He's a brand. And by the way, and God bless him. You know what? He supposedly treats his friends really well. You know what I mean? Buys them things. And he's got a really great place in Lake Como. And he's great friends with Barack Obama. What do you have to do with anything? Why do I have to listen to you? What right do you have to step on a man who's given 52 years of his life to the service of this country and decide that you, George Clooney, are going to take out basically a full-page ad in the New York Times to undermine the president at a time in which, by the way, what do people care about the most? Why do you think that the Republicans have an advantage over us? Because they're unified. They will go along with anything. I wasn't asking anybody to go along with anything. I was asking people to go along with this. The most successful administration in my lifetime. And I'm including the Obama administration, I'm including the Reagan administration, I'm including every administration in my lifetime. We have gotten more done for the agenda of the things that your generation and my generation cared about than any president in history. And we didn't get it all done, but more than anybody else, with the slimmest majority ever. And everybody said that there's no way that he's ever going to be able to do that. And you know what George Clooney did? Because he sat down, I guess, because he was given a blessing by the Obama team or the Obama people and whoever else, and David Axelrod and whoever the else, is to go, okay, yeah, you know what? We are going to insert our judgment over yours. Me and James Carville, who hasn't run a race in 40 years, and David Axelrod, who had one success in his political life, and that was Barack Obama. And that was because of Barack Obama, not because of David Axelrod and David Plouffe and all of these guys and the Pod Save America guys who were junior speechwriters on Barack Obama's Senate staff, who have been dining out on the relationship with him for years, making millions of dollars. The Anita Dunns of the world, who's made $40-50 million off the Democratic Party. They're all going to insert their judgment over a man who has figured out, unlike anybody else, how to get elected to the United States Senate over 7 times. How to pass more legislation than any president in history, how to have a better midterm election than anybody in history, and how to garner more votes than any president that has ever run. And they're going to replace their judgment for his.
Can we get more Hunter Biden in the media, please? That is fantastic. And the part I love about that is I agreed with about half of that. Most of the second half of that, I think you probably agreed with it too. Like, why do people listen to James Carville? What has he done since Bill Clinton's been out of the scene? What are his great skins on the wall? What is his great accomplishments? And David Plouffe and David Axelrod, yeah, they rode Obama's coattails. What have they done since then? Why are we listening to these people? Why do we listen to some of these people to begin with? I'm glad he's questioning it. Not saying his father had the most effective and successful presidency. That's pretty funny. So the greatest presidents and greatest statesmen. Yeah, he passed more of these legislative accomplishments. Look, stop. Now that he's done with, and he's never going to be president again, and he's in the hindsight, we actually have a little more clear look at our previous presidents, including Joe Biden. What is his accomplishment? If you were going to write the small chapter in the history book about him 50 years from now, Joe Biden, what did he accomplish? You could say Obama at least did Obamacare. Man, I mean, that's something. You know, you could say Trump got the big tax cuts in 2017. I mean, I guess that's something. Biden, what was his big legislative accomplishment? The Inflation Reduction Act that had nothing to do with inflation. It was just green energy giveaways that all got repealed when the next guy got in office. There's no legacy there. The nicest thing you can say about the guy is he got us out of the Afghanistan war. He did a real sloppy job of it, left a lot of equipment behind, probably strengthened the Taliban in the process, but at least we got out. I mean, like, if you got to say something nice about him, and this guy's saying he's the most successful president, really, keep putting this guy on TV. That is so good for the cause. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next on The James Show, you're going to get a good laugh at the Babylon Bee skit about a woke activist that goes back in time to try and kill Hitler when he's still in art school. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, Newstalk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I thought you would get a good kick out of the Babylon Bee skit where they had a 2025 woke activist go back and try and assassinate Hitler. And she's exactly what you imagine. She's got on the nerd glasses. She's wearing a Planned Parenthood shirt and a little Palestine button on her shirt. And she's going to kill Hitler, but after a conversation, she's not so sure.
Before you pull the trigger, can I just ask why? Why do all of you people want to kill me?
Isn't it obvious? I'm a progressive, a liberal, a fighter for social justice. And you are a fascist who implemented a reign of terror. And while the effects of your policies devastated the world for decades, soon we will be able to take back the White House. And we will be able to use the government to force people to follow our great ideas.
You want to use government power to force your ideas on the populace. Me too!
What? No. You and I have nothing in common. What I'm saying is there are people in our time with dangerous ideas, and we need to silence them.
Silence those who disagree with you. I do that too! Wunderbar! The Nazi movement will not die with me.
Don't give me that! I'm enlightened, and you're as bad as... Well, it's Hitler. Listen. What I'm trying to say is we are very close to implementing a utopia. As long as we can get rid of some certain undesirable people.
Yes, like the Jews.
Yes, like the Jews. Oh.
So in the future, you also do not like the Jews?
Well, no. But we don't believe in segregating all the races like you do. I mean, except for like graduation ceremonies. And dorms. And hiring practices. And admissions policies. That sort of thing.
I too am a fan of the segregation. I'm sorry, I have to ask. Is this a real firearm or is this some kind of toy for
It's a flare gun. I'm trying not to support America's toxic gun culture. I'm a firm believer in gun control.
Gun control! This was one of my ideas too. Ban them from the undesirables. Yes, here. And your shirt. This is an organization founded by Margaret Sanger. Yes.
Wait, you know about Margaret Sanger?
Of course. She's such a lovely person.
No. She's a fighter for reproductive rights. For women's empowerment
and the eradication of undesirable populations by means of eugenics. Brilliant lady, inspiring. I must use some of her ideas in our socialized healthcare system.
Socialized healthcare? That's not your thing. That's our thing.
Oh no, that's very much my thing. Did you know that Nazi means National Socialist German Workers' Party? Nazi is just more catchy. Nazi. Rolls off tongue.
No. This can't be true. This has to be some sort of mistake. We are nothing alike. You're Adolf Hitler, evil right-wing fascist dictator, and I'm a feminist sort of justice advocate. And a vegetarian.
You're a vegetarian?
Me too! Okay, I am so confused right now. I came here with a clear goal in mind to kill the most evil man I've ever lived. Besides Ronald Reagan. But now that I'm meeting you in person, you're not at all what I thought you were. And your painting is actually really good. What do you call it?
I call it Reich ohne Juden.
Wow. I don't know what that means, but it sounds beautiful.
That's hilarious. And it's so funny because there's more than a kernel of truth to that. And so many of you dang well know it. And another great skit from the Babylon Bee, the most conformist woman in the world. You know, like the most interesting man in the world, the old Dos Equis commercial. This is the most conformist woman in the world.
She calls America evil. From her iPhone while sipping Starbucks, on an airplane, with Wi-Fi, while watching TV. She drinks oat milk because regular milk makes her feel colonial. She got 8 COVID shots, still caught it, and blamed the unvaccinated waiter. She has a Ukraine flag in her bio. She thinks Ukraine is a clothing brand. She says Black Lives Matter, but still clutches her bag in certain neighborhoods. She used to be vegan, now she's carnivore. Depends on who she's dating. She thinks all cops are bad, then called the cops because someone wasn't wearing a mask. She says she's a feminist until she needs a jar opened. She says, trust the science, but thinks there's more than 2 genders. She got the booster, then posted a selfie with doing my part while spreading COVID in Tulum. She drinks ayahuasca for trauma she invented last year. She says she hates capitalism, but charges $499 for Zoom breathwork. She posts about toxic masculinity. From her ex's apartment. She is the most conformist woman in the world.
I don't always drink, but when I do, it's from an organic coconut with a biodegradable straw. Stay obedient, my friends.
$4.99 for breath work over Zoom. That's crazy. I only charge $3.99. Bryan Adams is coming to town. His Roll with the Punches tour is hitting American Airlines Center November 13th. Special guest Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. Get tickets and information at livenation.com. Or if you want to try and win some tickets from us, go ahead. Text the word Adams to 800-288-9227. Text Adams to 800-288-9227. For the rest of us, livenation.com. That's going to do it for the James Show. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm about to get out of here and go put up the podcast. I'd appreciate it if you check it out sometime. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.